Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulihil Kareem. So this one part that we got left out yesterday, this one here, the hadith we were discussing, this in the naghiri katifihi al-yusra, um, everything is right now. Jumman alayhi khaylanun ka'amthali sa'alili. So khaylanun, I told you khaylanun is jama of khalin. So it refers to like so you can say moles, كأمثال السعاليل, like a cluster of moles. That's the best translation I could find. If anybody have a better translation, they can try to share it with us, right? So, جمعا عليه خيلان كأمثال السعاليل. Okay, read the next hadith, inshallah. Yeah, so you can read I'tuni or Ituni, both you can read it there.
What review you got for us?
Just put on mute as somebody's sound is coming on through there. Yeah, what you say? Yeah, yeah. But after the Budada, Mudaf ilayh is mansub. That's basic stuff. You can't get the right wrong. Ya Umma Khalidin. Hada Sanahu. Right. بخاتم النبوة. Right. You got what you got? Right. Okay, sorry. بخاتم النبوة. Right. Carry on. You finished the lane? Okay. Beautiful hadith. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وأن أم خالد بنت خالد ibn Sa'id, on the authority of Khalid binti Khalid ibn Sa'id, she said, أتي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بثياب فيها خميصة. That once um, it was brought to Nabi Sallam a cloth, right? And in it was a khamisa. So it had like a khamisatun sawda'u, like you can say a black line saghiratun, right? فقال ايتوني بأم خالد. So Khalid was a small child. So Nabi Sallam said, bring to me. You can read this as i'tuni or ituni bi Khalid. Bring me Khalid. فأتي بها. She was brought. Ata bihi means to bring, right? And utiya bihi means to, as majhul meaning to be brought. So she was brought to him. تحمل, she was being carried. فأخذ الخميسة بيده. So right, so Nabi Sallallahu took this khamisa right in his hand. فألبسها, he made her wear it. فقال أبلي. Bala yabli means to become old, right? Right? Abli wa akhliki, and made perish. Abli, and then made become old and made become perish. وكان فيها ألم أخضر أو أصفر, and in it was green or yellow lines. فقال يا خالد. Then Nabi says, أو خالد, هذا سناه. This is sana. وهي بالحبشة حسنة. And in Habshi language it means this is good, right? قالت فذهبت ألعب. Then I began playing بخاتمها min nubuwati, with the seal of the prophethood, right? فَزَبَرَنِي أَبِي. You say, my father, um, he reproached me, right? فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم دعها. Nabi Sallam said, leave her. رواه البخاري. Imam Bukhari narrates this particular riwayat. So this here, the relevance of this hadith here with the chapter is quite obvious, and that is um, right. Although the relevance of the hadith here is with regards to the what you say Khatamun Nubuwati, or the seal of the Prophet, but there's so many other things. There are so many other things we learn from the hadith. First things here, uh, Ummah Khalidin was a small girl, right? So sometimes you also give, like, you give this name Ayman, etc., etc. And when you give, even though that girl, whatever, is not a mother, whatever, but it is a good omen. It is a good omen. So inshallah, you will do this. I'm not sure what you've done in the other babs already, but you will do this when you come along. كان يحب التفاؤل ولا يحب التشاؤم. That Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to love good omens. He never worried about bad omens. What does it mean? He used to love good omens, but he didn't worry about bad omens. What does that mean? Simple. What does it mean? Ismail, what do you think it means? Lukman, what does it mean? He used to love good omens, but he didn't worry about bad omens. Pretty simple. If I tell you you're going to kick yourself, tell me, what does it mean? You should love good omens, but never to worry about bad omens. What does it mean? Simple. Like, if you see something, you take a positive meaning out of it, but you don't take a negative meaning. Simple example. Like in English, they say, if you walk under the ladder, then it's so many years bad luck. If a mirror breaks, it's so many years bad luck. If you What's the other one? If you drop the salt, then there's so many years bad luck. So when something happens, you don't take a negative meaning that because this happened here now, there's going to be so many years of bad luck. That is called a bad omen, the sha'um. But the good omen, yes. For example, if the first thing in the morning I saw Hassan, so that means my day is going to be Hassan. You understand what I'm saying? I saw I saw I saw Jamila in the morning, so my name is going to be my day is going to be Jamilun today. You understand what I'm saying? So Nabi Sallallahu used to love good omens, but not bad omens. You understood what I'm saying? So here I was telling you that many a time you give the name Ayman or Ummi Ayman or Umma Khalid, whatever, even for a small child. So this is a good omen. There's nothing wrong with that. That is 100% permissible. It's fine. Are you with me? Then the next, okay, so uh, right, so so that was the first thing that I want to tell you. The next thing is this, tuhmal. I told you it means to be carried, right? So she was a small child. That's why you got there. فأوتي بها تحمل, right? فأخذ الخميسة. Then Nabi Sallallahu was gifted this khamisa, whatever. See there, أوتي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بثياب فيها خميسة. So it's here in the Shara, they give a nice explanation of it. They say it refers to a small Yemeni shawl that had flowers embroidered upon it. What? A small Yemeni shawl that had flowers embroidered upon it. Right? So it's بثياب فيها خميسة سوداء. صغيرة. So this was gifted to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And so just see there again there. Utiya Nabi sallam bisiyabin. Cloth was brought, and from amongst that cloth there was a khamisa, a shawl. Are you with me? Are you with me so far? Nabi sallam was gifted cloth, and from amongst that cloth was a khamisa. And there was the shawl, right? Um, so the point here is this here, that what I want to make here, see that this cloth was given to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he considered inappropriate for himself, but he considered it appropriate for a little girl. So what does it show you? That is why our ulama always teach us, our ulama, they teach us also, and I remember when we were in madrasa by Mufti Siraj by the Darul Uloom, to be very, very strict with this, that your clothes shouldn't be over fancy as an alim, or even you becoming an alima, you becoming an appa, you becoming a muallima, etc. Your clothes shouldn't be over fancy. So you shouldn't be having writing on your clothes. You shouldn't be having, okay, nowadays you get small thing here maybe. Although the K-waist, that's a different story now. They're saying that is supports the Zionists. But okay, we don't forget about that part that the K-waist supports the Zionists. But like maybe there's a small emblem here or something like that. That is okay, it's acceptable, it's okay maybe. But you have big writing on your clothing. You can see Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Don't look at him. I'm speaking to you. Why are you looking at him? Why are you looking at him? Right? So from this, there's another one. I told you there's another riwayat also where, besides this riwayat, there's another riwayat. I told you, I mentioned to you this. Also, a shawl was given to Nabi Sallallahu. Somebody gifted a shawl. So Nabi Sallallahu said, gave it back. He said, "I'tini bi ambijaniya. Bring me a plain one. Bring me a plain one." So he gave it back and he got a plain one. So from this year, you learn as ulama. Nowadays, for the ladies also, they got the fancy scarves with, I don't know, Gucci or Biduni Ism, Biduni Ismi, and all that type of things. For people, for Qudwa, people who are leaders, people who are community leaders, this is inappropriate, right? Couple of years ago, there was a sheikh that came. His name is Sheikh Kamaluddin. He's from the U. He's actually from the USA, but he was a Khalifa of Mala Zulfikar al-Najbandi. He was here at Masjid Mansour, and then he gave a talk there. And in the talk also, for a long while, he was speaking about ulama driving fancy cars. For quite a bit of while, he banged it out big time. That ulama shouldn't be driving fancy cars. They should be driving simple cars. Maybe not Skadoings or whatever, or Jikalezas or something. We don't say the ulama every morning he must push his car and all that type of thing. But he mustn't drive over fancy car. And I told you the reason is why? Because he won't be approachable. He won't be approachable if he's driving a over fancy car, and people find it difficult to come to him. But anyway, so this point I was making here, although in the time of Nabi also maybe there wasn't the riwaj, the custom of having writing on the clothing, but yeah, it's quite clear, it is sufficient to show that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't consider it appropriate for him to wear a over fancy garment that had a lot of writing and all that type of thing. That's one thing. It's over fancy. And another thing also, it is a distraction in salah. Now, if you imagine you'll do this masla, inshallah, it will come in the hidayah. If somebody reads something in salah, if they just read it with their in their mind, it doesn't break the salah. So, for example, somebody got Nike, right? So in your salah, something in front of you got Nike. So you in your mind you say Nike without mouthing the words, your salah won't break, right? But if you mouth the words, then uh, your salah will break. So this is quite clear, etc. That you shouldn't be wearing over. You shouldn't be wearing over fancy stuff, right? Um, that was the next thing I wanted to tell you. So yeah, so even though we're speaking about clothes, but in general, everything of an alim, Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq, me first, your clothes, your conveyance, your house, everything should be. I'm not saying you must live below the breadline and you must struggle and all that type of thing. And Allah Ta'ala blessed you. There's also a hadith, so you have to strike the right balance. Inna Allah yuhibbu أي إن الله يحب أن يرى أثر نعمته على عباده أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والتسليم. Allah Ta'ala loves that He sees the effect of His favor on His servant. So we're not saying you must struggle, whatever. What we're saying here is this, that it shouldn't be over fancy, it shouldn't be over gaudy, etc. Are you with me? Is that quite clear now? Okay, so that was the next thing I wanted to show you there. So this so if you've got a jacket, whatever they've got writing all the stuff, wait till it falls apart. But in future, when you're buying, don't buy any type of that type of clothes, inshallah, because it's not saying it's haram or anything, but it is inappropriate. So we make dua. See, this is a nice dua that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made. See, look at this. Balaya believe means to get old, right? So when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says abali wa akhliqi, what is he saying? It must get old. What does it mean? I say, if you look at the literal translation of it, it doesn't seem nice. Like this thing must get old. This thing must get worn out. Yeah, you can say abali, it must get old. Wa akhriki, it must get worn out. Like obviously nobody wants their clothes to get old and to get worn out. So if you look at the literal translation, it doesn't sound so nice. But what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? It must get old, it must get worn out. What does it mean? Huh? No, not what means. It means it it means you must get good use of it. It means you must. That was you must. If you got if one is you got a jacket, maybe it never get old. You lost it before, just after a few days, it never got old. Or maybe something happened to you, Allah Ta'ala protect, or you passed away, or something like that. So that mustn't happen. It means you must get many years of good use of it. That's what I'm saying. That's what it means. So I was telling you, when Nabi Sallallahu said, may it get old on you, may it get worn out on you, Nabi Sallallahu is effectively saying, may you get many, many years of beneficial usage, because something will only get old, it will get worn out when you had several years of good usage. So it's a good, so that's why you say Nabi Sallallahu was Dami'ul Kalim. His words were so much loaded with meaning that when he's saying you must get good, it must get worn out, it must get old. He's actually saying that may Allah Ta'ala give you a long life that you can get good usage of this, right? So that is why also maybe now we can just extrapolate upon this. When somebody got something like maybe somebody got a new car, or somebody got a new house, or somebody got a new wife, you got another wife, whatever. Then you say, may Allah Ta'ala give you many, many years of good usage of this house in His obedience, or maybe Allah Ta'ala give you many, many years of good usage of this car in Allah Ta'ala's obedience. That's actually understood from the hadith. It's actually because what Nabi Sallallahu said the same thing. May the thing become old, may it become worn out. Means what? May you get many, many years of good usage of it. So when you make that dua for somebody, when somebody got a new favor, whatever it is, house, car, when you say may you get many, many years of usage, it's actually proven from the hadith. Are you with me? So that's the one thing. The second thing we learn also, two things, the next thing we learn, I told you, so the hadith is loaded with meaning. The next thing we learn here also is this, that uh that yeah, so for a female, it's appropriate for them to be more fancy, not for the men. And even for a child also, certain something which is not appropriate for an adult is appropriate for a female, right? Uh, so Khamisa refers to, I told you, that shawl, etc., right? Sanahu, I tell you, sana means something which is good, something which is nice. So that's why فقال يا أم خالد هذا سناه. This is good for you. ويا بالحبشة حسنة. So you see also from this hadith here that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also used words from other languages. Like, in every language, you get words from another language that creep into it. Like in English, if you study the origin of certain words, you see maybe Afrikaans words creep in, or in Afrikaans language, in English words creep in, whatever, whatever. So Nabi Sallallahu also use it, right? Then the last part of the hadith is obviously relevant to our discussion there. That that is part of, I mean, relevant to the Bab. That he says, Al Abu bi khatam al nubuwati, fazabarani abi, faqala Rasul daha. Then that also, I told you, this hadith is so loaded with meaning that this child began playing with this thing at the back of Nabi Sallallahu, which we term as khatam al nubuwati. So obviously the Sahabi was taught that it's inappropriate. And so he said, Nabi Sallam, no, don't worry, leave it. Let her play. So we see Nabi Sallam's cordial relationship with children. There are many hadiths that speak about as the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam giving a ride to Hazrat Hassan, Hazrat Hussein, etc. So that's why the ulama say that at home, a person must be like a child. At home, outside, you must be like a man. But at home, you must be like a child. But unfortunately, we are the opposite way nowadays. Then outside, we want to play and laugh with everybody. But when we come at home, we want to be like lions. Everybody must respect us. If something is out of place, then all hell breaks loose, which is actually supposed to be the opposite way around. There's a request here that we must repeat another hadith. What hadith is this here? This here? You can check in your book. I think your Bushrapan 5781 is which hadith? 5781. 5781. Huh? This one that we're doing busy with now. Same one, okay. Okay, so there was a request that we. Okay, let's look at the next hadith. Okay, so we've done that hadith already that we wanted. Okay, carry on. Read next one. So remember that part now about, we're not saying that you must be scruffy or you must be shabby, whatever. You can be smart, you can be decent, but you mustn't be over fancy. And the same thing I will apply. I will mention the same thing also for the females also, especially if you are apa, you mu'alima, etc. You're teaching deen and you want people to, you want to benefit people. If you look, you study knowledge. Why do you study knowledge? What I told you, the motto of Darul Azad: learn deen, practice deen, and preach deen. So if you want to preach deen, if you want your legacy of knowledge to continue, then you must be approachable, isn't it? You must be approachable. But if you are over fancy, right, how are you going to be approachable? So if you are Appa, for example, and you're wearing Gucci, you got a Louis Vuitton handbag, maybe even if you in hijab, even maybe wearing parda, whatever, but you got a Louis Vuitton handbag and you got lot of jewelry on and all that type of thing. How are the people going to come to you? How are they going to come to benefit from you? Like this happened in a real life thing. So there was one place, there was Talim. So when they invited the one person, the one person said, I won't give too much details. So I can't go there because there the ladies, they got all expensive clothes. If I go to that Talim, I'm going to feel out of place. If I go, the lady said, no, I don't want to go to that Talim. All the ladies got expensive clothes. If I go there, I'm going to feel out of place. I feel uncomfortable going there for Talim. So that's why I'm telling you that even though Allah Ta'ala has given you, you must keep it basic, plain, and simple so that you're approachable, so that people can benefit from you. And there we are. There you got it from the hadith also. And I told you, Sheikh Kamaluddin from the USA when he was here, he also spoke heavily out against ulama driving over fancy cars. Anyway, carry on.
وفي رواية يشوف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال كان الربع ليس بطويل ولا بالكثير أشعر اللون قال كان صحو رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى أنصاف رجليه وفي رواية بين رجليه وحاسبيه متفق عليه وفي رواية البخاري قال كان ضخم الرأس والقدمين لم أرى صحبه ولا قبله أنا صدر وقال كان شأن القدمين والكعبين.
Okay, before we go, there's a question here, just about this one here. The previous had Ituni bi ummi khalin fa utiya biha tuhmal. There's a question about the previous one. See there. The question is how you translate tuhmal. Do we translate as she was brought and she was carrying a load with her? No, obviously doesn't mean that. Because look here, she was a small child, so she couldn't be carrying a load. Logically, Khalid was a small child. So she can be guessed. It means she was being carried. And if you and an easy way to work it out without looking, one is you can remember there's two ways you can work out the translation. One is you look at the meaning, what was making sense of the meaning, and the other is you follow the Zamair. Are you with me? So from both ways, it doesn't make sense. If you follow the Zamair, that translation doesn't make sense. And even if you look at the meaning, you just look at the meaning, it doesn't make sense. A small child was brought, that means the child was carried. And follow the Zamair, see, Ituni bi ummi Khalidin, bring to me ummi Khalid. But utiya biha, it was brought biha with her. So tuhmal, what the Zamir there? The Zamir is here, isn't it? Because tuhmal is muannas. And normally, what is the law? The Zamir returns to the closest Zamir before it, right? The closest marja. So ha is there, biha. So the here refers to the ha there. Because here is a Zamir munfasil and ha is a Zamir muttasil. So so she was carried. You understand what I'm saying? So you follow the Zamair and Tuhmal, which is here, it refers to ha. You understood? So what I'm telling you, the point I'm making is from a meaning point of view and from uh, a Nahwa point of view, both it refers to the she was carried. The other was, he was carried into the presence of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Right? Are you with me? Okay, let's look at the next hadith. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وعن أنس narrating authority of Anas قال كان رسول الله ليس بالطويل البائن. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not excessively ba'in means you can say nice way to translate, yeah, maybe outstandingly tall. So he wasn't a very tall person, right? Remember, before we look at the hadith, everything in moderation. What makes a man handsome? What makes a woman beautiful? Or what makes a woman pretty, etc. In Arabic, it's called. There's a nice word for it. Let me see if I can get it. It's called. Can't get it. I think but it translates like this here, that all your limbs must be in proportion. Like, if you, for simple example to understand, your nose must be in proportion to your head. Not you have a big head and you have a small nose, or you have big ears and you got a small head, or you got a small mouth, you got thin lips, but your face is so big. If your head is a bit big, then your lips must be in proportion. There's an Arabic word, man. Anybody, tanas, it's called tanasule. What's it called? I can't, okay, if I get it word again, I'll mention to you. So everything must be in proportion. I'm saying, so a completely flat nose is not good. But a sharp nose is not good. But it must be between being flat and it must be between being, then it looks nice. That's just saying, it's called Tanasube, I can't get the word, but anyway, the same thing here. Nabi Sallallahu, the unique thing about Nabi Sallallahu, everything was like I would say, khairul umuri awsatuha. Everything was in equal proportion. Nothing was out of proportion. Everything was in proper proportion. That's why Nabi Sallallahu was. If a person is very tall and thin, it also looks funny. If a person is short, and what is the reason for this? The reason for this is that a Nabi is supposed to be attractive, so that people will like him and they will accept his message. If a person is, for example, generally man is like that, you are attracted to nice things and you are repulsed by ugly things. You understand what I'm saying? زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ. So if the Nabi is very ugly, then people will be repulsed. They won't want to take the message. When you see a very ugly person, or you see a person that he's got Allah Ta'ala protect us, he's got some defect in his face, or maybe his nose is, you've got automatically you look away and that's the so that's why that is the reason, this is the wisdom behind the perfection in the holy of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, why he was so perfect, right? So um so he was not outstandingly tall, neither was he short. وَلَا بِالْأَبْيَضِ الْأَمْهَكِ. I'm going to just loosely translate this word, but the proper tahqiq, the detailed research of that word, it will come later on here in the kitab, right? And neither was he, I told you can say for the moment, pale white. Like, if something is very, very white, like I told you, like a person seen a ghost, that is why people, in the European countries where there is not a lot of sun, etc., especially go, they'll pay for a tan because you get that maliha, that whitish. that reddish, brownish color, right? Wala bil adami, and neither was he very Adam. You can say means reddish or brownish, right? Uh, walaysa bil ja'dil qatiti, and neither was his hair very curly, right? Wala bis sabti, and neither was it also very straight, right? بعثه الله على رأس 40 سنة. Allah Ta'ala sent him as a Nabi ala Ra's. Normally Ra's translated as head, but here they mean at the beginning of 40 years. فأقام بمكة 10 سنين. He lived in Makkah for 10 سنين, 10 years. That is after Nubuwwat, right? وبالمدينة 10 سنين, and after that in Medina for another 10 years, right? Then وتوفاه الله على رأس 60. توفى to take the soul. إن الذين توفته الملائكة, right? Then Allah Ta'ala took his soul at the beginning of 60 years, right? وليس في رأسه ولحيته 20 شعرة. Allah Ta'ala took him away in such a condition. There was not in his head and not in his beard. I try as far as possible to translate word for word so that you know what each word means, right? There was not in his head and not in his beard. Ishruna sha'ratan bayda'a. It was not in his head more than 20 white hairs, right? وفي رواية, in another riwayat, يصف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, that explains Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, كان ربعة من القوم. He was medium height, right? I told you again, not very tall and very short, because that is not صفة مطلوبة, right? ربعة من القوم ليس بالطويل, not very tall, ولا بالقصير, not very short, right? Azhar. This is Zahar. Azhar, Fatimatu Zahra, the same root letters there. One is Zahratun. Zahratun, which is a flower. And Fatimatu Zahra, this Alif Mamduda is Khair Mustarif. Are you with me? You know the difference between Zahratun and Fatimatu Zahra, right? It was Alif Mamduda, right? Same word. Right. Azhar al-Lawni. So Zahar means like bright, luminous skin, right? قال وكان شعر رأس رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى أنصاف أذنيه, and then the hair of the head of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم was to half of his ears. وفي رواية بين أذنيه, and another riwayah says between his ears وآتقه, and between atiq is his shoulders, right? متفق عليه, there's a متفق عليه رواية. وفي رواية البخاري, and another riwayat of Bukhari Sharif, كان ضخم الرأس. He was, كان here is tam, he was ضخم الرأس, you can say but big-headed, you can say like that. والقدمين, fleshy feet. لم أرى بعده. So the Sahabi saying, I did not see after him. After I saw him, I never see after that. Right? ولا قبله, and not before him. Before I saw him, مثله, somebody as beautiful and as handsome as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وكان بسط الكفين, and he had fleshy hands. وفي أخرى, and in another riwayat it mentions وفي أخرى كان شث القدمين والكفين, he had fleshy hands and fleshy feet. Okay, so there's a few things, quite a few things we need to discuss here. I think we covered most of it. Let's look at it, inshallah. طويل بائن, not outstandingly tall, because if a person is like outstandingly tall and thin, then that also looks a bit funny, isn't it, right? Al-amhaq, amhaq refer to, like, you say, we done this word, lime. Lime is very, very, sort of jabsam. It's very, very white. So Nabi was not pale white, and then we discussed this. So amhaq, we told you that's also not a sifat matluba. Adham, like reddish, brownish, right? Very red also, then it appears to be brown, isn't it? And many times the red is referred to as brown, right? So he wasn't very, very red like maybe the red Indians of America, whatever, right? So he was malihun. Malihun means between white and between red, right? Which is a sifat matluba. Al-ja'du al-qatitu, not very, very curly. So, yeah, al-jad and qatit both means curly. It's like a, yeah, I say qatit is a sifat, right? So not so jad and qatit both means curly, right? Both means laysa bi jadin, not so. So it comes as a sifat. It means so. That's why I translate it. Not very very curly his hair was. Not like maybe the people of Africa. But look here, if you look at Arabia geographically, it is very close to Africa. Né? In fact, if you look at Arabia, uh, the bottom part of the Arabian Peninsula, Yemen, in line with it is Somalia. That is where the Somalians came from. That they intermarried, the Yemenis people intermarried with the African people. That's why, like the Somalians, they are half Arab and they are half African. That they look different to the normal Africans, right? So, so geographically, Arabia is very close with Africa. And that's why they resemble the Africans to a very great extent. There's a very interesting article I read a while back. You see, the article says this here makes sense. You're gonna accept it. You can accept it. That Arabia is geographically very close to Africa. So, say pre-Islam, the Arabians looked very much like the Africans, very much. But with the Islamic conquest, then slaves came in from Persia, etc., etc., and the Muslims intermarried with them. So as a result of that, their dynamics changed. So they don't look so because of that. We can say intermarriage, slaves, etc. They don't look so African like they were before, prior to Islam. But anyway, besides that point, the main thing I'm trying to mention here is because it was close to Africa, there had a lot of features of Africa, but not exactly African because it was like you can say between Africa and Europe. And right, uh, where's the right? Yeah. Then bust also means not completely straight. And here in the Sharah, the so something in between. Because remember, I told you Arabia is between Africa and it's between Europe. So obviously the features were also between. Here the Sharif he mentions it's very interesting. He say not as curly as the people of Africa. Here you got it in Urdu, and not as straight as the people of Europe. Somewhere in between. And I told you why, right? Then the next thing here is we know, yeah, it says in the Kitab that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam got his nubuwwat at the age of 40 years. Now, there are certain riwayat, also other riwayat that suggest that all the Anbiya alayhi salatu wa taslim, they got nubuwwat at the age of 40 because that is the time when a man's intelligence reaches its peak. It reaches its peak, it is complete, right? And then the hadith also says he spent 10 years in Makkah after nubuwwat, right? And then it says he spent 10 years in Medina and he passed away at the age of 60. But this is interesting. I just want you to remember this here. Please remember this here. The most authentic narration is, remember this, that he spent 13 lunar years in Medina, not 10. And the most authentic, there are many riwayat they speak about at what age Nabi Sallam passed away. But the most authentic riwayat is that Nabi Sallam passed away at the age of 63 lunar years, which would be like 60 maybe English years. You can work it out, right? And Imam Bukhari, he also made tarjih of this, he made tasih of this, that it was 63 lunar years, right? So how do we explain this here then, which is speaking about 10 years and 10 years? I mean, I gave you the answer before. If you sharp, you'll remember. The Arabs like to make kasr. Remember when you was in school, you done rounding off to the closest five. So 4, 5, 6, 5, 9, 10. You just say rounding off to the closest five or rounding off to the closest 10, etc., etc., etc. Right? So same thing here. The Arabs who do that, they would just leave out the kasr, the fractions, and they would round it off to the closest number. You understand what I'm saying? So here we say those riwayat, they say it's been 10 years in Makkah, 10 years in Medina. We say, to be precise, it was 13 years, but we're just rounding it off. You understand what I'm saying? Rub'ah, I told you here, coming back to here, it says here in this riwayat here, where is it? Rub'a. Yeah, he was Rub'a means medium height. Where is it? Just show me where is it again in the kitab. Yeah. Kana Rub'atan min al-qawmi. He was medium height. Although you're not here, but in certain riwayat they say that despite Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam being medium height, but because of the awe he had, the awe he inspired, he appeared to be taller than the rest of the people. You know, certain times, certain people, maybe they're small in size, whatever, but their presence is felt. They make themselves. Sometimes certain people, when we were madrasa, there was one guy who was a very small guy, short guy, but he used to always be loud. And you know, anybody saying anything he wants to speak and say in. So the guys used to tease him. Say this guy, if here he's gonna be missed out because he's small size. So he makes sure he's heard. He makes sure he covers up. He covers up with talking in everything and speaking loud for where he's lacking in his size. So sometimes the people are small in size, but they got large. You know, they got large presence. That's why you say also in English, this guy got a larger than life presence, right? So laysa bil tawili wala bil qasiri, right? So that is the explanation of rub'atan. Kana rub'atan means laysa bil tawili wala bil qasiri, right? Yeah, azhar, I told you, explain, I told you shiny, it means yeah. Azhar means clear, beautiful, shiny skin. Now, normally clear, shiny skin is a sign of good health. It's a sign of good physical health, and it's a good sign of good psychological and emotional health. When a person is happy, when a person is, you know, your skin is bright. That's why when a person get married, they say this guy got, you can see the got a married glow. He got the married glow on him. Like our man Ismail here now, he's not even 1 year. How long is he married now? Coming up July, anniversary is coming up. So he still got the married glow on him, mashallah. After 1 year, not husband, then his husband, then the married glow will go away. So same thing here. You're saying that it's a shiny, bright skin is a sign of good health. You show everything is good inside, right? Bahma Rasi, interesting here. They say that not unusually large, but slightly bigger than normal head is a sign of intelligence, is a sign of leadership qualities. You know, there's another thing, it's called Kiafa. In order to call it Kiafa Shanasi, and as Imam Shafi was also a master in this, that you can look at a person's physical features, and from his physical features, you can decipher what his temperament is, etc., etc. So there also, that's science. Although that's a separate ikhtilaf, you'll do it one day. Can these things be used as a proof in Sharia, etc.? Can you look at the feet of a person and say, is this person the son of this person? The preferred opinion according to Hanafi Madhab is not a hujjat in Sharia. It is not a proof in Sharia. You can't look at this person. So in previous times, you get people that they were expert in the looking at the features of a person and figuring out their lineage, figuring out their temperament. But the preferred thing in the Hanafi Madhab, this is not a proof. The preferred opinion in the Hanafi Madhab, this is not a proof. But anyway, in the science, it's mentioned also that a slightly large, obviously, if a person's head is very big, then it looks funny. It's an illness, whatever. But if a person's head is very small, it's also an illness. But a slightly larger than normal head is a sign of leadership qualities. And even amongst the Arabs, it was a sign of leadership qualities. And here also, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a larger than normal head. Are you with me? And this is what we say, a sifate mamduda, not mazmuma, right? Sha'atul qadamain, I told you here, it referred to fleshy. That was not skinny, not bony. And again, obviously, to have a decent amount of flesh on your limbs, especially in the heart, in the harsh desert climate, etc., etc., that was a sign of good health. And especially for a man, look, a man must be strong. A woman is supposed to be petite, small, etc., etc. But a man must be strong. And why is a woman naturally inclined to a man that is strong, big, tall, robust? Why? Because genetically, a woman is wired that a man that is strong, is tall, he's big. You will be. Remember, I told you before industrialization, etc. Life was harsh. It was survival of the fittest. Not how clever you are, or what degree, how strong you are. Can you hunt? Can you gather? Can you provide? So that's why, guys want to have muscles, they want to have a big chest, they want to have abs and all this stuff. And the women are attracted to that. Do you know why women are attracted to that? Look, man, do you know why women are attracted to a guy with six pack, muscular, broad shoulders? Why? Because genetically, a woman is wired to believe that the stronger the man, he will be able to provide for her, he will be able to hunt for her, he will to be able to protect her. Because before it was the law of the jungle, survival of the fittest, right? No guns, no knives. You have to be strong into. So that's why a woman is naturally wired to be impressed by a guy that is strong, less fat, muscle, etc. Because that is in the genetics, that is in the genetics, that is in the DNA. So now you know why. If you're ever wondering why a woman is naturally attracted to a man who is strong and robust, right? Anyway, so yeah, so I was telling you, for a man to be strong, to be fleshy, and that was also Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Okay, I think that covers everything there. Anything left out covers everything.
You get the point. So you come right when you are eloquent and you are able to give, good reasons for.
So yes, also is mentioned غليظ الأطراف من شؤث الضم والكسر إذا غلظ. So it's also a sign of being strong and being able to provide. Okay, I see we got very little left time. Let's just see. We had a topic. We're going to switch over to the tafsir. Ne? We're going to just we were still busy reading that English in it. Ne?
This is like it's saying you must be with friends to your
Let's put it on. Just want to download it.